Stop listening to what people say about what you can and can't do. The ideas you hold in your head pertaining to your ability to mold the life you envision for yourself serve as the foundational building blocks of your mentality. These ideas will make or break your one-person business. Be aware of what these ideas are and be willing to either nurture them if they serve your purpose or destroy and rebuild them if they don't. No matter who you are, where you come from, your age, or your social group, there are always going to be people around you who are going to comment on your capabilities and try to tell you what you can and cannot do in life. This is something no one really escapes from. Sometimes they'll have good intentions, and other times they'll speak from malice. But the reality is, you always have and you always will have the ability to define your own future and define your own goals. You have the power to create your ideal life. Now, I know this may sound cliche by now, and you've probably heard it a million times over from friends, family, teachers, people on TV, influencers on YouTube or on social media. But the thing is that no matter how many times you hear it, no matter how many times you tell yourself the same thing, it's really not going to mean anything to you until you actually begin to believe it deep down inside. Our minds are very complex, and sometimes we have to find ways to trick ourselves into believing that something is true in order for us to internalize it in our subconscious. Okay, I'm referring to that idea that you do have the ability to create your own future. Now, once you've internalized this in your subconscious, ideas have the power to dictate your behavior, aspirations, and actions. This happens all of the time. It's just a matter of our awareness of it, and oftentimes it unfortunately occurs with ideas that tend to have negative effects on our behavior or our emotional state. A clear example of this is related to our self-esteem. For example, if you have low self-esteem, or if you know someone with low self-esteem, you'll be able to relate to this following example. Say you take a person that is relatively good looking, who has his or her own personal style and is naturally inclined towards being kind and supportive of others. But unfortunately, this particular person has grown up in an environment that isn't necessarily supportive. Say his family and neighbors tease him or her over maybe the way they look, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they choose to express themselves. And given that this person is constantly being bombarded with negative ideas about themselves, it is likely that with time, they'll begin to believe it, and these ideas will grow within them, within their subconscious, making them insecure, and they'll begin to lose confidence and become very shy. We see this happen all of the time. Now, the good thing is that this person can change their thoughts and behavior if they reprogram, or if they learn how to reprogram their mind, and they begin to believe something that was previously not thought possible. They can consciously reject ideas that were internalized and begin to develop new ideas that are maybe more positive and more beneficial to them. Now, the same thing can happen to ideas that relate to your ability to take control of our lives and to mold your vision. But first, we have to make sense of our previously limiting thoughts, ideas, or feelings. We have to understand that even though we actually believed in a certain idea in the past, say ideas that made us insecure, that idea no longer makes sense to us during our current level of development. And then begin to reprogram our minds in order to rid ourselves of that negative or limiting belief. Now, there are many examples relating to limiting thoughts and feelings associated with a given environment. That environment can be your household, your group of friends, your social network. But I started off with the idea of someone suffering from low self-esteem. But I want to move to another idea that maybe relates a lot more to the overall objective of this channel, which is to develop a business-oriented mindset and to train ourselves to think of and pursue the possibilities provided by a one-person business model and personal branding. Now, it may be safe to say that most of us come from working-class families. And within working-class family households, there normally tends to be an idea regarding our limitations as to what we can and can't do for a living, right? Well, how we earn money. In other words, a limiting idea as to what we are capable or aren't capable of accomplishing in life. Now, given different levels of education and past experiences within a particular household, these expectations and limitations will vary. In some households, the expectations may be high, and in others, it may be relatively low. In general, these limitations and expectations are defined by available job opportunities out there and tend to see the current job market as the only possibilities for self-actualization, growth, and life design. For the most part, we are told to follow a given template of going to school, graduating, getting a degree, and becoming X, Y, or Z in a given profession or within the marketplace. Or if we don't take the higher education route, you're told to start at a low barrier entry level job and work your butt off until you can move up the ranks, maybe in retail service, hospitality, or restaurant business. Sales is also very common. The idea that we can create our own career paths and opportunities outside of these options that are laid out to us is seldomly discussed. These are, for the most part, the ideas that we were given as children, and in most cases are going to be ideas that we're going to pass on to our children unless we change our mindset and redefine ourselves, or redefine for ourselves what is possible and what we can create for ourselves in our life. To begin to reprogram our minds and rid ourselves of these limiting ideas as to what you can and can't do, or what you can and cannot accomplish in life. The first step is to understand the reasoning behind why you have this idea in the first place. Most of us come from working class families, and for working class families, it makes a lot of sense to think this way, given that it's a valid framework for understanding the reality that most of us face. And it helps us focus on getting a job or starting a salary-based career that will provide security for ourselves and for our family. So there is nothing inherently bad with this idea, and it does make a lot of sense in a given scenario. Nevertheless, the issue that I'm trying to point out is that at the same time, it creates a limiting idea as far as to what you're capable of accomplishing in life. We have the ability and have always had the ability to choose another path, to embark in the unknown and create for ourselves a lifestyle and income source that differs from the common route. We have always had and will always have the option to start a business of our own instead of trading our time for an hourly salary or wage. The main issue is that this forces us to face our fears. Building a business is a very uncertain path, a path that you have to create for yourself. It's not predetermined, it's filled with ups and downs and doubts and obstacles. For the most part, we have to make adjustments along the way, and we have to grow in multiple areas of our lives as we progress through our journey. And we have to constantly learn skills that will aid us in accomplishing our goals. Oftentimes, a business will demand more of us than a job. This is definitely true at the beginning, because with time, depending on how you structure your business, you'll probably end up having more free time and freedom than what a traditional job can offer. But if we do choose to embark on this path of building your one-person business and personal brand, the first and most important thing we have to do is redefine for ourselves what is possible, what we can and can't do. In other words, redefine your mindset. This means that you'll have to stop listening to what people say about what you can and can't do. But don't do it out of spite, anger, or rebellion. Trust me. If you try to change your mentality based on those types of feelings, you're not going to truly rid yourself of these limitations in your subconscious. It's best to come to the realization through thought and reflection. By understanding where these ideas stem from and understand why it makes sense for people to think the way they do within a certain context and environment, you'll be able to understand why so many people are stuck in that mindset and they don't even believe in their own ability to create a different life for themselves. This will help you understand why maybe your parents, your friends, or your family members would advise you to follow a common path and to rid yourself of ideas of entrepreneurship and overall freedom from monotonous work. Keep in mind that most of the time, their advice comes from a good place and it has good intentions. And within their framework of reasoning, they are giving you the best advice they can and looking out for your best interests, particularly if these are people that truly love you, okay? Now, the only problem with their advice is that it isn't necessarily compatible with the type of person you want to become. The quicker you realize this, the more assurance you will have in your future decisions, and the more the idea that you could accomplish whatever you commit yourself to will be instilled in your self-conscious. This mindset switch is the most important step you can take on your journey to building your one-person business. Now, it takes time. It takes a lot of reflection and a lot of understanding. You would have to repeatedly tell yourself that you are capable of accomplishing goals that at first seem unattainable. And you have to believe that the way you used to think about your limitations, or the way you were thought to think about your limitations, is no longer true. And that you no longer have any use for those types of limiting ideas. Maybe it was useful during a certain stage of development in your life. Maybe it helped you stay focused and grow in the job that you currently have. Maybe it helped you stay focused during school. Maybe it's kept you rooted and centered on a particular career path. And in most cases, you can definitely see the value and see how it served you well. Because at the end of the day, that idea helped you accomplish great things, obtain a certain level of security, and provide for yourself and your family. But in the path that lays ahead, you have to slowly expand the ideas as to what you can accomplish and what is possible, and what you can create for yourself. And as you slowly start moving in this direction, remember to completely stop listening to other people's opinions. Because trust me, there are going to be a lot of people that will let you know or will tell you that what you're doing is wrong, that you're crazy for considering to pivot in life after having invested so much time and energy to get to where you currently are at. They will tell you that job security is the most important thing you can have, without ever really admitting that job security doesn't exist. How many times haven't you seen people lose their jobs after a number of years working for the same company, to then find themselves having to start all over from scratch, and worse, becoming unemployed and staying unemployed because the skills that they have can't be applied to another job or another position, or maybe the employer is just looking for someone with similar skills but a lot younger, that's willing to work for a lower wage. Now, a lot of this negativity will come from your coworkers primarily, so sometimes it's best not to tell your coworkers your plans, unless they are intimate friends and will provide you with positive feedback and motivation. So stay focused. Trust that you are making the correct decision in pursuing a one-person business, and constantly reinforce the idea that you can accomplish greater things, and with time, your subconscious will catch on. At first, you just have to trick yourself a little bit. But with time, your subconscious will reinforce this behavior. And before you know it, your train of thought will work on a whole new level. Or stop listening to what people say about what you can and can't do. Trust yourself and believe in the process. With time, everything will begin to make sense.